I used to believe the world was a fair place. I thought that if I kept my head down, did good work, and was a decent person, my value would eventually be recognized. I operated under the assumption that life was a meritocracy. It was a painful and systematic lesson to learn that I was wrong. You feel it, don't you? That quiet frustration of being out, of having your ideas ignored in a meeting, only to hear them praised when someone else says them 5 minutes later, of watching people who are less competent, but more confident, get the opportunities you deserved. It's the feeling of being a reliable, dependable, invisible utility. You're a pawn on a board, and you can't even see the hands moving the pieces. But what if you could not only see the hands but understand the mind behind them? The world's most effective people have long understood a set of principles, inspired by one of history's most notorious strategic thinkers, Machiavellian. Most people hear his name and think of tyrants. They're missing the point. Machiavelli wasn't a monster. He was a realist who dared to write down the rules of power, not as we wish they were, but as they actually are. He gave us a cold, pragmatic manual for how the world works. Today, I'm going to share 8 of those laws. This isn't about becoming a villain. This is about survival. It's about understanding the physics of power so you are never a victim of it again. It's about inoculation. This is how you stop being a pawn and start becoming a player. Law. #1. The law of strategic silence. First and most foundational law is the law of strategic silence. This is the ability to hold your tongue when every fiber of your being is screaming to react. In a world drowning in noise, the one who masters silence masters the entire conversation. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it because it feels like a loss of control. The strategic mind knows the opposite is true. Silence isn't an empty space. It's a pressurized chamber. When you are provoked or challenged, your emotional reaction is the prize your opponent is looking for. They want to see you angry, defensive, or flustered, because an emotional outburst is a confession that they've found a crack in your armor. By refusing to react, you deny them their victory. Their provocations become hollow, their momentum collapses, and the power dynamic resets in your favor. Think of a tense negotiation. A lowball offer is on the table. The amateur objects immediately. His voice rising, he reveals his emotional investment, his desperation. The master, however, says nothing. He simply maintains eye contact, maybe a flicker of disappointment, and waits. That silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the absurdity of the offer back at the person who made it. The other person starts to get anxious. They start to doubt their own position. They start filling your silence with justifications, and then concessions, and then a better offer. They negotiate themselves down while you haven't said a word. In any conflict, the first one to over-explain is almost always the loser. This isn't passive avoidance, it's active pressure. Silence forces other people to reveal their hand. They are so desperate to break the tension that they will reveal their priorities, their insecurities, their real intents, all in an effort to fill the void you created. You'll learn more from what they say to break your silence than you ever could by speaking to apply these. Practice the deliberate pause. When asked a challenging question, don't rush. Stay a moment. Let the silence hang. It conveys immense confidence and signals that you are in control. Unfazed by their pressure, your silence will be deafening. It's a shield and it's a weapon. Use it to protect your composure and dismantle your opponents. Law number 2. The law of calculated detachment. The second law goes against our very nature, which makes it one of the most difficult to master. The law of calculated detachment. This is the ability to psychologically step back from outcomes, situations, and even people that no longer serve your core mission. Attachment is the source of all strategic vulnerability. When you are emotionally chained to a single outcome, a specific promotion, a relationship, the success of one project to give away your power, your decisions become clouded by the fear of loss. You become predictable, and a predictable person is an easily controlled person. The master of power understands that nothing truly owns him. He can work with passion and build with commitment, but he is never a slave to the results. Detachment is not about apathy. It's about caring from a position of objective strength. It's the difference between a surgeon who panics at the sight of blood and one who remains calm and focused, able to perform the life-saving operation. That attached leader makes clear-headed decisions in a crisis, because they aren't drowning in the emotional chaos. Think about a founder whose first company is failing. The attached founder pours more money into the sinking ship, sacrifices his health, and refuses to see the writing on the wall because his ego is tied to its success. The detached founder, however, sees the situation for what it is, a failed experiment. He learns the lessons, salvages what he can, and walks away with his capital and energy intact, ready to build the next, more successful venture. He was loyal to his mission, succeeding as an entrepreneur, not to the specific vehicle of that first company. This law is brutal when applied to relationships. So many people stay in draining friendships or dead-end jobs because they are attached to comfort, to history, or to the fear of being alone. The Machiavellian mind recognizes that any person who consistently drains your energy or obstructs your path is a liability. Walking away isn't cruelty, it's strategic self-preservation. To practice this, you have to constantly evaluate your attachments. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to out of fear? Is this person a strategic asset or an emotional liability? You have to develop what the Stoics call a view from above, the ability to see your own life from a dispassionate distance. This doesn't mean you become a cold machine. Your emotions are your advisors, not your dictators. By mastering detachment, you gain the ultimate freedom, the power to act based on pure strategy, unburdened by neediness. You become fluid, adaptable, and impossible to trap. Law number 3. The law of unseen disciplined power isn't built in the spotlight with grand gestures. It's forged in the silent, thankless hours of daily work. This is the third law, the law of unseen discipline. It's the ability to do what you need to do, day in and day out, especially when no one is watching and the initial motivation is long gone. Most people confuse motivation with discipline. Motivation is a spark, a fleeting emotion that gets you started. Discipline is the engine that keeps you going in the dark, in the cold, when you hate it. The world is full of motivated dreamers. The empires are built by the disciplined. A Machiavellian understanding of power is that your public reputation is built on your private habits. The world sees the final victory, the flawless performance. It doesn't see the hundreds of hours of practice, the early mornings, the monotonous repetition. That discipline is your secret weapon. It is the invisible foundation of your strength. Think of the amateur versus the professional. The amateur practices when he feels inspired. The professional follows a routine, rain or shine. That relentless consistency creates a gap in skill that no amount of talent can bridge. When a crisis hits, the amateur relies on panicked improvisation. The professional falls back on their training, executing with calm precision because the actions have become second nature. This isn't just about work ethic. It's about psychological dominance. A person with unshakable self-control projects an aura of power. Others subconsciously recognize that this is a person who cannot be easily swayed. Your ability to command yourself is social proof that you are capable of commanding others. Discipline also starves your impulsivity. The undisciplined person is a slave to their whims, making them easy to manipulate. Their desires are transparent and their resolve is weak. The disciplined individual, however, has mastered delayed gratification. They can resist the baited traps set by others because their focus is fixed on higher, more distant prize to build. You must create a life of structure. Build a non-negotiable routine. Identify the most difficult, important tasks and do them first. These are the private victories that build an unstoppable momentum of confidence. Track the process. Celebrate the act of showing up, not just the result. Discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Start small. Each minor act reinforces the identity of someone who does what they say they will do. While others are tossed around by their emotions, you remain anchored, steadfast, and always moving forward. That is the power of unseen discipline. Law number 4. The law of proactive observation. The fourth law is about turning your senses into strategic weapons. It is the law of proactive observation. While everyone else is busy talking, waiting for their turn to speak, you must become a silent collector of intelligence. You have to learn to see people not as they present themselves, but as their unguarded actions reveal them to be. Machiavelli taught that words can be tools of deception, but actions are windows to true character. A person can give a speech about integrity, but their real nature is revealed in how they treat the waiter, the intern, or anyone they think has no power. Kindness to an equal can be a performance. Respect shown to the powerless is a far more accurate signal, because there's no strategic incentive to fake it. This is not passive people watching. It's an active, analytical process. You must enter every social and vanilla meeting, a partyist, a strategist gathering data. Quiet your own ego, which longs to be heard, and focus your entire attention outward. Observe the group dynamics. Who defers to whom? Who interrupts? And who allows themselves to be interrupted? These are the invisible currents of power. Observe inconsistencies. A person who preaches teamwork but quietly takes credit for others' work reveals their true ambition. A person who talks about their love for honesty but becomes evasive under direct questioning is showing you their fear. One of the most potent tactics is to test people. Offer someone nothing, no praise, no validation, and see how their behavior changes. Do they grow cold? Their warmth was transactional. Do they try harder to win you over? They are insecure. Do they remain composed? They possess emotional control. You have to become a student of human nature, cataloging the patterns you see. Just as a poker player studies tells, you must study the tells of those around you. Notice how people react to praise, to criticism, to stress. Their reactions aren't random. They are expressions of their deepest fears and desires. By mastering this, you become immune to manipulation. A manipulator thrives on controlling the narrative and playing on your emotions. But when you are a detached observer, their tactics become transparent. You see the flattery not as a compliment, but as a probe. You see the guilt trip not as a moral failing on your part, but as a lever they are trying to pull. You move from being a reactor to a predictor. You can anticipate moves before they are made. This isn't magic. It's simply the power of paying attention. Law number 5. The law of value through scarcity. A world of overabundant rarity creates value. This is the 5th law. The law of value through scarcity. To increase your power, you must strategically limit access to your presence, your time, and your skills. This principle is a fundamental driver of human desire. We are psychologically wired to want what we can't have. What is always available is taken for granted. What is hard to get becomes a prize. This applies directly to your social and professional value. If you're always available, always eager to help, always the first to reply, you signal that your time isn't valuable. You become a utilitarian, appreciated, but never truly respected or desired. Power flows not to the most accommodating person, but to the one whose attention is a scarce commodity. To apply deep, you must master the power of no. Say no to meetings without a clear agenda and requests that drain your energy without advancing your mission. Every yes to a low-value request is an implicit no to a high-value opportunity. Next, control your availability. Do not be the person who answers emails at all hours. Let your absence be felt. When you withdraw, you create a vacuum. People begin to wonder what you're working on. Your silence and absence create an aura of importance. When you do grant your time, it's perceived as a gift, not an entitlement. Think of the expert consultant versus the eager employee. The employee is always available. The consultant is booked for weeks, charges a premium, and is only available for a few hours. Both may have similar skills, but the consultant's perceived value is exponentially higher because of their strategic scarcity. This also applies to your opinions. In meetings, don't be the first to speak on every topic. Hold back. Let others exhaust their points. When you finally do speak, your words will carry more weight simply because they are a rare resource. Using scarcity is a delicate art. Too much distance, and you become irrelevant. Too little, and you become common. The key is a dynamic tension between presence and absence. Be visible in moments that matter. Deliver exceptional value, and then strategically withdraw. By making yourself a scarce resource, you transform yourself from a common stone into a rare diamond. Law number 6. The law of weaponized patience. Our world worships speed, instant replies, immediate results. This frantic urgency is the enemy of strategy. The 6th law turns this weakness in others into your weapon. The law of weaponized patience. It is the ability to outwait your opponents, to play the long game while they exhaust themselves in a pointless sprint. In a Machiavellian sense, patience isn't passive waiting. It is an activia, offensive strategy. It is a deliberate choice to slow things down to gather more information, to let your opponents make mistakes, and to act only when the moment is perfectly ripe. Rushing is almost always a sign of weakness in action driven by fear or ego. Patience is a sign of confidence. It signals that you are so sure of your position that you have no need to hurry. Think of a predator. It does not charge wildly at the first sight of the herd. It watches, it waits, it studies patterns, it identifies the weakest, the most distracted member. It waits for the perfect moment of vulnerability before it strikes. The strike is swift and decisive, but it is preceded by long periods of calculated stillness. Your strategy should be the same. In negotiations, manipulators often use urgency as a weapon. They create artificial deadlines. This offer is only good for today, to force you into a quick, bad decision. Weaponized patience is the perfect antidote. When faced with this pressure, you deliberately slow things down. You ask for more time. You introduce new variables. You remain calm and unhurt. This breaks their momentum and transfers control of the timeline to you. Their feigned urgency will often crumble, revealing their desperation. Patience also allows you to watch your rivals. Impatient people make rash moves. They get into petty fights, overcommit to failing projects, and burn their political capital on short-term gains. While they are creating chaos, you are quietly observing, conserving your energy, and waiting for the inevitable power vacuum to emerge. As the proverb says, when your enemy is making a mistake, do not interrupt him. To cultivate this, you must develop a long-term perspective. Detach from the need for immediate gratification. Learn to see time as your ally. Every delay is an opportunity to gather more intelligence. In a world obsessed with the immediate, the person who can control the tempo and wait for the opportune moment holds an almost insurmountable advantage. They let others exhaust themselves while they conserve their energy for the single, decisive strike. Law number 7. The law of mission-bound loyalty is one of the most manipulated words in our vocabulary. People demand your loyalty to them, to a company, to a group, but it's often a one-way street designed to serve their interests. The 7th law cuts through this sentimentality with cold logic. The law of mission-bound loyalty. Your ultimate allegiance must be to your own long-term mission, not to any single person or institution. This is not a license for betrayal. It is a strategic framework for ensuring your own integrity. Loyalty to people is fragile. People change. Their interests diverge from yours. If your loyalty is blindly given to a person, you become a pawn in their game, your fate tied to their whims. However, loyalty to a mission-defined, overarching purpose is a source of unshakable strength. Your mission is your North Star. It is the standard against which you judge all alliances. A job is worthwhile only if it serves your mission. An alliance is strategic only as long as it advances your mission. In the corporate world, a company demands your loyalty. But when economic conditions change, they will lay you off without a second thought. Their loyalty is to their mission. Profit. The wise employee understands this. They work diligently. They are a good teammate, but their ultimate loyalty is to their own career mission to gain skills, build a network, and advance. They are prepared to move on when the company no longer serves that mission. They are loyal to their path, not their current employer. To apply these, you must first define your mission. What is your ultimate goal? What principles will you not compromise? Write it down. This becomes your constitution. Then, evaluate your commitments through this lens. Are your relationships empowering your mission or draining you? Is your job a stepping stone or a stumbling block? Be ruthless in your assessment. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone who doesn't offer a direct benefit. It means understanding the nature of each relationship. Some are strategic alliances. Others are transactional. Many are liabilities that must be managed or severed. When you operate with mission-bound loyalty, you become immune to emotional manipulation. Guilt trips lose their power. Your decisions are no longer based on who you like or who you owe, but on what strategically serves your purpose. It gives you a clarity that others, buffet by shifting personal allegiances, will never have. Law number 8. The law of controlled perception. The final and most encompassing law is the law of controlled perception. It states that in the game of power, reality is secondary. The perception of reality is what matters. How you are seen determines how you are treated. And therefore, your reputation is the most valuable asset you can control. Machiavelli understood that humans don't react to the world as it is. They react to their interpretation of it. A person perceived as powerful will be given power. A person perceived as weak will be taken advantage of. Therefore, the master strategist does not leave their image to chance. They sculpt Italiano. They project an image that serves their goals. This is the art of wearing the mask. The mask is not a lie. It's a strategic tool. It's a deliberately crafted persona that shields your vulnerabilities and projects, the qualities you want others to see. Confidence, composure, intelligence. Never reveal your true inner stature or doubts, your fears, your desperation. To do so is to hand your enemies the weapons to defeat you. You must become the conscious director of how you are perceived. This starts with your physical presence, your posture, your eye contact. The way you move these send powerful signals. Stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and move with a deliberate, unhurried pace. These things subconsciously communicate. Control. Next. Control your words. Speak less than necessary. When you do speak, let your words be measured. Avoid gossip, complaining, and emotional outbursts. These things diminish your aura. A person who complains is perceived as powerless. A person who gossips is seen as untrustworthy. A person who is constantly emotional is seen as unstable. Use association to your advantage. You are judged by the company you keep. Surround yourself with people who are respected and powerful. Their aura will reflect onto you. Conversely, distance yourself from those perceived as incompetent. To master this law, you must become an objective observer of yourself. How do others react when you enter a room? What is the reputation that precedes you? Once you understand your current perception, you can begin to strategically alter it, signal by signal. This isn't about being fake. It's about understanding that most people are unconscious actors in a play. The master of power writes their own script. Over time, as you consistently project that image, the mask becomes your face. You are the architect of your own reality, because you have mastered the perception of it, the turn and synthesis. These laws are tools. They are sharp, and in the wrong hands, they are dangerous. A hammer can build a home or it can tear one down. The morality is only in the hand of the wielder. Many will hear these principles and see only a blueprint for manipulation. They see the darkness in them, and they are afraid. But to ignore these laws is not to rise above them. It is to become a victim of them. The world is already operating according to these rules. Pretending it doesn't is choosing to remain a pawn. Understanding these laws gives you a choice. You can use them to build a life of agency and self-mastery, to recognize manipulation before it takes hold, and to protect your value from those who would undermine you. True power is not about controlling others. It is about ensuring you are never controlled. The game of power is being played all around you. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you can remain a piece on the board, moved by invisible hands, or you can become a player. You can learn the rules, understand the strategy, and begin to direct your own destiny. These 8 laws are your first steps. They are not a magic formula, but a path of self-discipline, observation, and strategic thought. The goal is not to become a heartless manipulator, but an untouchable strategista, person so aware of the dynamics of power they can navigate the world with clarity and purpose. My journey from the overlooked nice guy to a position of real influence wasn't about becoming a bad person. I just stopped playing by a set of rules the rest of the world ignores. You can choose to believe that kindness and hard work are enough. I lived that way for years, and it just made me a target. Or you can accept the world as it is, not as you wish it were, and arm yourself with the tools to win. If this resonated with you, and you're ready to keep exploring the real mechanics of power, subscribe to the channel. We don't deal in comforting lies here. We deal in what works.